Hey guys, welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast post-game show. Just got done watching the Detroit Pistons versus the Washington Wizards preseason finale. Have a lot of quarter notes I want to go over. Something new that we are doing this year, you guys, is after we're done with the quarter notes, we have a Q&A segment. If you guys want to drop questions in the live chat, if you're watching live on YouTube right now, go ahead. But if you want to join the podcast with me, if you want to come up here, maybe you have something you want to talk about, maybe you want to just come up here and just talk about this Pistons win, I have a link pinned at the top of this podcast, this live stream. If you're watching on YouTube right now, click the link. And after we're done with these quarter notes, we go into the question and answer segment. I will allow you guys to come on in if you want to. If not, no pressure. You just want to drop a question in the live chat right now, you're more than welcome. But let's get into today's post-game show. So, starters, Cade Cunningham, Duncan Robinson, Asar Thompson, Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren. I was wrong. I didn't think we were going to see Tobias or Cade at all, just because usually you're sitting your starters in the fourth preseason game. But JB put these guys out. And I think a really big reason for that was the Jaden Ivey news, which we'll probably get into at some point of this podcast, but I think that's probably going to be your opening night starting lineup: Cade, Duncan, Asar, Tobias Duren, because I think it makes the most sense spacing wise to have Duncan and Tobias surrounding Cade out there. But Cade looked great this whole preseason. He's just looked like he's in peak physical condition. He's scoring at all three levels. One of his first points, I'm not even like exaggerating. Like, it was a crazy reverse layup. I'm pretty sure the NBA socials posted it on Instagram and Twitter if you guys want to check that out. Like, it was just a crazy acrobatic finish by Cade. But he looked really aggressive out there, and it was really cool to see Cade just be aggressive, looking to score. Jalen Duren looked great as well. He looks like he's in a really good shape. He had 10 points, 3 rebounds in 6 minutes. He finished with 20 points in this one. JD looked great. The lob connection with him and Cade Cunningham still there. They led the NBA last season in lobs. They were the best lob duo. And that chemistry is just always going to be there. Cade's always looking to throw him lobs. And, Cade had a double-digit assist. I believe he finished with 12. If I'm looking at the box score right now, yeah, 12 assists, 16 points for Cade Cunningham. So, your starting point guard and your starting center look great. And that's good to see, going into the season next week. We're 6 days away until the Pistons do open their season on the road against the Chicago Bulls. One player that I've just been impressed with, it's not even the preseason. I told you guys in the summer league, this kid is too good to be on a two-way contract. I've been telling you guys that for a very long time. Donis Jenkins came in, brought energy, and I just love what I'm seeing out of him. I think there's a real shot and a real opportunity for him to get some playing time with the Pistons. I really do. Now, whether that's him staying on a two-way and, still playing with the Detroit Pistons, or whether that's converting his two-way contract into a standard contract and making the 15-man roster. I don't really know what direction Trajan and the Detroit Pistons are going to go, but Donis Jenkins, to me, has just been such a bright spot, not only in these preseason games, but in summer league. And I'm pretty sure he had a good training camp because JB played him quite a bit. Going into the second quarter, the Pistons had a 29-18 lead, if you guys care. Going into the second quarter, Donis was leading the second unit. They were just kind of leading with energy, and I really like that about them. Washington did push the pace late in the second quarter, made some stops. Our transition defense was really bad in the second quarter. and it's kind of been a thing where it's preseason. Some of these guys aren't trying as hard, but overall, I think that's something they do need to clean up. Just throughout the preseason, transition and closeouts, being a little bit more aggressive when the other team is shooting a 3-point shot, just being more aggressive with those closeouts. But Pistons do go into half with a 57-51 lead. Hey, coming out of halftime, Washington was still really hot. Believe it or not, they actually came back and had a 1-point lead for about 2 seconds. Believe it or not. And then Cade started scoring. Duncan Robinson was hitting some threes, getting in the rhythm. Jalen Duren had a really nice dribble handoff, bounce pass that he likes to do. Hit Duncan in stride. It was a really nice play. Bench unit came in around the 2:30 mark with Donis, Jazz, Ron, Javante, and Paul Reed, and they played a majority of the second half, and they finished the third quarter going on a 29-9 run, and the score was 93-79 going into the fourth. Nothing really to note with the fourth quarter outside of Colby Jones, one of the Pistons' two-way guys. If you guys aren't familiar with him, it was his second preseason game. We were told that he had an ankle injury on media day from Trajan Langdon, but he was diving for loose balls. Had a really tough 3-point shot late in the fourth quarter. I'm really intrigued with him. Don't really know if he's going to make the active roster. I would assume not. He's probably going to be a staple with the Motor City Cruise, but it's good to see him out there get an opportunity to get his shine. He still had Bobby Clipman out there. He had Tolu Smith, Bryce Williams, guys that in the preseason, did he get some clock? Didn't get like as much clock as the starters did in the first and second quarter, but it was good to see them get an opportunity. I am going to open up the show to questions, comments. If you do want to come and join the podcast, the link is in the comments. All you got to do is click it, and I will allow you to come on the show. And if there's a topic you want to talk about, you're more than welcome. Or if you just want to drop a comment in the comment section about tonight's game, or maybe it's the Jaden Ivey news that did just happen, you guys are more than welcome to. I do see some comments from Devon. Just showing love. I don't know why I'm tired. It's 10 o'clock at night, Devon. I mean, I'm exhausted. I'm actually drinking coffee to stay up to do these post-game shows. I drink a lot of coffee during basketball season to stay up for these post-game shows. Full transparency, when we do West Coast trips, I'm not even exaggerating. I'm probably drinking 2 pots of coffee just to stay up. I get kind of crazy. I kind of get nervous with all the caffeine that I do intake during basketball season, but it's worth it, staying up late, doing these post-game shows for you guys. Got another comment from Devon saying, I hate Jaden Ivey is still hurt. Cole Anthony changed his career. Yeah, that dive on his leg, breaking his fibia, sucked. It really did. I really felt he was starting to turn the corner, getting more consistent offensively. Defensively, I felt like he was still making strides. But the news today, I think, was very surprising. Not so much that he's injured, but I think the reason why the news was just kind of like, we're like, oh, wow, he's going to be out 4 weeks, is because we got told day to day. And then, JB comes out with the media today saying, like, progressively it just got worse from training camp to that first preseason game against Memphis, which I don't know if that irritated it. Saw him limping off the court after the first quarter, but he will be reevaluated in 4 weeks. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what does happen there. Hopefully, within 4 weeks, the rehab does good. But I'm really interested to see who steps up in Jaden Ivey's absence. Like, Duncan's obviously going to be in the starting lineup. Karis LeVert will probably get more opportunities. Marcus Sasser mentioned on the broadcast that he's actually dealing with some tightness in his hip. So I don't know whether or not he's going to be ready for opening night Wednesday against the Chicago Bulls next week. But I think there will be a lot of opportunities for people to step up. Chaz Lanier, I don't know how much clock he'll get, but I mean, with having your starting shooting guard out there, I think there'll be more opportunities for guys like that. And then also The backup point guard situation is also interesting because Jaden Ivey and Karis LeVert were going to kind of stagger that backup point guard. And we touched on Donis Jenkins at the top of the podcast. Like, does Donis Jenkins get that backup point guard nod because he's looked really good, not only in preseason, but summer league. And he had a really productive season with the Motor City Cruise, being that number one option for the Cruise, being their engine in the G League. But I hate it. I'm wishing Jaden Ivey well. Hopefully the rehab goes swimmingly and like we get a really positive update in 4 weeks, and you kind of can map out when he could possibly get reevaluated. But yeah, it was definitely a gut punch today when I saw that Shams notification and the article that the Pistons put out. Got a comment from Zach Yoder. Shout out, Zach. Appreciate you, man. Feel like we saw what's going to happen without J.I. Looks like Asar will carry a lot of the playmaking load. It's a good thing he's been getting reps. I agree. I think not having Jaden Ivey out there will create more opportunities for Asar Thompson to have more of those on-ball reps. Like we were talking about this on Tuesday. Like the point of Asar, I think some people saw it on Tuesday. They saw it in a half-court setting, and immediately they disliked it. They hated it. But I think everything takes time. Asar did get to kind of experiment with it last year. JB kind of experimented with putting the ball in his hands. I think this preseason, we saw so much of it, and I think there's a lot of positives you can take away with it. There's a lot of film I'm sure Asar will actually watch. One thing about Asar, from just talking to media members and beat reporters, he is watching film while his teammates are like getting dressed and they're getting ready to leave the arena. Like I remember when I interviewed Hunter Patterson, he said his first interaction with the Sorrows, he was already watching film of how to get better. And they have a long road trip. Like Asar watches the film. He's just a basketball sicko in just the most genuine way I could say it. A basketball sicko isn't an insult at all. Sarge is a gym rat, and him being able to get more on ball reps this season, I think will just be better for his development long term. Red Baron, do you think we might have seen the last of Ivy in a Pistons uniform? No, I don't think so, Red Baron. If you listen to Trajan Langdon, if you listen to JB Bickerstaff, they rave about the guy. They rave about his character. They rave about him as a basketball player. They rave about just how he's been in the gym tirelessly this whole offseason. I know firsthand the organization really loves Jaden Ivey. The injury is the injury. I don't really think it changes their standpoint of like how they value him. I know people might want to bring up the contract extensions with him and Jalen Duren and the deadline that is coming up in around 4 days or so. But I do believe that the Pistons still value Jaden Ivey. It just sucks because we really haven't seen this backcourt healthy. Like if you pull up the numbers, I don't even think Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey have played 100 games together. And it's from injury. It's from Cade missing a whole season, Jaden Ivey dealing with the Monty Williams stuff, and then getting his leg taken out from under him last season with Cole Anthony. But I think the organization still really values Jaden Ivey 100%. I don't think that they're so fickle where they would move on from like full transparency. If you don't get into dialogue with certain social media groups. Like I have a Detroit Pistons Facebook group, and I saw a post today saying trade Jaden Ivey. And I'm like, bro, you're not trading Jaden Ivey just because he got hurt. Like that is just so like crazy thinking. Like there's no logic behind it. As soon as that injury like popped the timeline, I see people saying like trade him. We should have traded him. Why didn't we trade him? It's just like it just kind of shows you how reactionary fans can be sometimes, and it blows my mind. We got to sit back, relax, and just kind of think of this team logically where they're at. And Trajan has said it himself, like they're still in evaluation mode. They want to see more out of this group, and because Trajan's front office didn't draft any of these guys outside of Ron Holland, Bobby Klitman, and Chaz Lanier. Like, that's it. He's only drafted 3 guys on this active roster. The rest of these young guys are Troy Weaver draft picks. So Trajan is still evaluating. He's still seeing what he wants to do with this roster long term. I think the Pistons have a lot of flexibility still, especially with the trade exception that they got from the Dennis Schroeder sign and trade with the Kings. You have 14 million about for trade exception that you can absorb on bigger contracts. You have guys that you sign to deals that are 15, 16, 17 million dollars that you could dangle at the trading deadline. But we are so far away from the trading deadline, you guys. Season hasn't even started, and we're already kind of talking about like trades. Let's get the season going, man, because these fans are so diehard and I love it. Got a comment from Philip. Saw you last post game show, Philip. Hope you're doing well. Great team play tonight. I can't put into words, but I know something is missing. I can understand what you're saying when you say I feel something's missing. This team is different from a roster construction standpoint. I think the positives I have is just Caden Duran just looking really good shape, especially Kate. Kate looks like he could score 30 on anyone right now. Like there's nothing that he can't do. Same with Duran. Duran looks like he's in really good shape. Not saying that he wasn't in good shape last year, but it just seems like the game has slowed way down for him, and he's able to get lobs. He's able to just bully people down low in the post. We saw a little tease of a mid-range jump shot on Tuesday. So I think there's a lot to look forward to this season, but appreciate the comment as always, Philip. I think the Asar Thompson leap is like 3.5 year thing, not right away. In year 3 thing, I need Marcus to get a shot though in this stretch. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, Zach. I know yourself and me have been kind of going back and forth with the Asar Thompson talk across Twitter. I always thought the Asar draft pick was just like you're drafting him based on what he could possibly be if you develop him correctly. And Fred Vincent has talked about it, about how, they're in the gym, they're working on free throws, they're working on mid range, ball handling, 3-point shots. I think it's a thing where it's going to take him more than one off season with Fred Vincent to be fully developed or quote unquote like unlocked, like some fans have said. You have to remember this is Asar's first full healthy offseason. Rookie year, didn't really get a full offseason to work with all the coaches. Second year, blood clots, which was last year. This year was his first full summer of being able to work out, no restrictions, and working with Fred Vincent and other NBA coaches. So I think Pistons fans see the potential in Asar, and they're just impatient with it. It reminds me a lot of previous Detroit Pistons draft picks that didn't pan out, and I think that that's kind of what happens with Pistons fans when you get into dialogue with draft picks is they just kind of get PTSD and they don't want that draft pick to be a quote unquote bust. Jay Hart, I like the fact with Asar that he can dribble drive to the basket more smoothly, which will help us a ton because the handle looks a lot better and that decision making in the paint will come. I agree. I touched on this last pod with just the handles look better. I saw a couple of drives where he finished with the left hand tonight. You saw it a couple times, and I believe the first preseason game. So if he's able to finish with both his right and left hand, I think that does open up a lot. And having a tighter handle, getting to the free throw line, will slow games down, and you can be in set defense and just disrupt the game more and get more stops and get more steals. And I think there's a lot to like with the start. That was a tongue twister, but I'm going to get to a couple more comments and questions. Got one from Piston Fan 11. My favorite game was the PG Asar Philly game last year, like our first win on national TV. So long. Point Asar was a fun ride at Cedar Point. Yeah, that I actually talked about this game with Eric Vincent a couple of weeks ago when we did our media day reaction, and he brought this game up, and I think fans just have to understand that he's still a very young player. He's going to make mistakes. But the Philadelphia game last year, I think it was an ESPN game, if I do remember correctly, as you pointed out. He looked great. He scored like 8 points in like 4 minutes. I think you see the flashes of what he can be. And there's this inconsistent play out of him right now. And it's frustrating because you see, like, at his highest peak, what a star could possibly be. But there's a lot to like with him. I really don't want to rag on him all season. I try to be objective as possible. And we've talked so much about the preseason and just people being on his ass. It's like it's the preseason, guys. Like we haven't even had a regular season game, and we're nitpicking over turnovers. We're nitpicking over mechanics or free throws. It's still very, very early. Red Baron, who's been your favorite player to watch thus so far this preseason? I actually got one for you that might not be um you wouldn't expect it. I've been a really big fan of Javante Green. There's something about him where I could see JB using him a lot this year. Every time he was on the court during the preseason, Red Baron, I just like the intensity. I like the defense. It seems like he's just a disruptor. He's going to get steals. He's going to run the fast break. 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan. I was very intrigued when we signed him this summer. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because I think JB is going to use a lot of lineup combinations where it's either going to be a Sar Ron or you're going to have like Sar and Javante or Ron and Javante. And he's hit a couple of threes too, which, if you're playing defense like that and you can hit like 33 to like 35% of your threes, playing good defense, crashing the glass. Yeah, like that guy I think is going to get a lot of clock. I really think that. Pistons fans kind of impatient, but deservedly so for sure. I don't give him a pass like that, Zach. Don't give them a pass like that. They are so. You should have bet on some of these podcasts during the losing streak, man. Fans were crashing out. It was like a freaking therapy section every week when we were on that losing streak. It was honestly crazy. Zach also says the front office staff speaks very highly of Asar. A lot of people in the circle believe he will be an all-star. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like with him. I mean, if he develops a jump shot, easily an all-star, easily your second most important player that you need to develop because everything else is there. The defense is elite, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. Watching him defend Jalen Brunson in the playoffs, he was incredible. Just need him to get more of a consistent jump shot. Work on the free throws, get him like around like 70%. And asking him to hit 100%. If he got up to 70%, like that would be huge. I believe he was 64% last year, but I mean, there's a lot to like with the SAR. Philip, what I meant to say was we must figure out the consistency and understanding of each player. A big missing piece, even if it's one player, Malik Beasley, does change how we played offense and get defended. Okay, I know you were talking about something was a little bit off, something was missing. Okay, now I understand what you're saying. In a sense, where like if you're just comparing like a 1-to-1, like I noticed how Duncan came off a screen today and he didn't immediately shoot it. And I was like, if Malik Beasley had that possession, he probably would have attempted a three. Duncan was a little bit hesitant, and then he passed the ball back out the Cade at the top of the key. I think it's just going to be an adjustment period, getting used to Duncan, getting used to LeVert, because it's not Malik Beasley, it's not Tim Hardaway, it's not Dennis Schroeder, right? I honestly think that it will be a thing where they'll get used to each other. They'll get used to, coming off screens, coming off pin downs, a lot of dribble handoffs with Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, Point Asar, different ball handlers. This roster is completely different from last season. I get what you're saying, but I guess I just kind of have to ride with it and, see what works, see what doesn't. Do a couple of more questions. Are we going to talk about the Stu and JD minutes tonight? I was shook, but I liked it. I didn't think we'd ever see that again, personally. I saw it on my screen. I was like, is Stu playing power forward right now? Um, I know media asked JD or they asked JB. There's so many J's, man. It's hard to do a podcast and not get them all confused. I know the media asked JB Bickerstaff about not having a conventional backup four, but I mean, if you're just mixing and matching Tobias Harris with Isaiah Stewart, and maybe you want to play a little bit small at center, that could be a thing. But I did see that tonight. I was like, oh, okay. That piqued my interest a little bit because we haven't seen too big since the Monty Williams year, and even Dwayne Casey kind of tried it a little bit towards the end of his tenure. But I mean, Stu does have the ability to knock down 3-point shots. I would just like him to shoot a little bit more, but that's just me. I think he has the ability to easily get you 6 to 8 points off the bench and play some pretty great defense. But yeah, I did like the Stu and JD minutes tonight. I don't know how much we'll see it during the regular season, but JB just kind of rolled the dice there for a second. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Red Baron, would you sign Dinwiddie? He just got released. I would. I don't know if Spencer would want to come. um, listening to the podcast with him talk about the Pistons, he got hazed a lot from Andre Drummond. He talked about the Stan Van Gundy years of veterans always taking priority, just even like in the locker room, getting checked out by trainers. If I had to guess where Spencer goes, I don't think it's going to be Detroit. If I had to take a guess, these are the teams that I was thinking about today. I think Indiana makes sense from a standpoint of this. TJ McConnell is injured and they need a point guard. I think Spencer Dinwiddie makes a whole lot of sense given that they're going to just kind of have a retool year with Tyrese Halliburton being sidelined out for the entire year. I think Dinwiddie makes a whole lot of sense there. I also think the Boston Celtics make sense. I don't think it's going to be Detroit, though. I think there's just a lot of bad blood with how he was treated during his tenure, understand, and then getting traded for a guy that wasn't even in the league for like 2-3 years. I really don't. I really don't. But yeah, I like I wouldn't mind it, but just from like because I've had people that have had him on podcasts before, and they said when we asked him about his Detroit days, his mood changed like completely. Like he tensed up. And I was like, oh damn, like I didn't know it was that bad. But I heard stories about like the duct tape shower story, which it's actually kind of funny. Uh, I could tell you guys that story because one of my friends used to do socials for Andre Drummond. So apparently, like during a game when Spencer was a rookie, they duct taped him to a chair and left the shower on, and he still had like a shirt and shorts. And the equipment manager and the janitor had to like get scissors to get him out of the chair. It was really bad, but I mean, some of the hazing that Andre Drummond and those guys did to Spencer, I don't blame him. I feel like every time he comes to Detroit, he goes crazy. He really does. But yeah, I'm wishing him well. I just don't think it's going to be a Detroit. I think it'd be maybe I don't know. I doubt he goes back to Dallas with D'Angelo Russell, even though Kyrie's injured. It's probably Boston or like Indiana or maybe Miami. I can't see him coming back to Detroit. The fact that Charlotte waived him was even more crazy. It's even more crazy. But I appreciate you guys coming on in for the last 30 minutes or so. We're going to be doing another podcast this weekend. with Sean Murphy. So that's going to be a long podcast. Anytime Sean and I go on a podcast, we might have 3 topics, but we go down rabbit holes and it turns into a 2-hour show. But we'll be doing another podcast, you guys, this Sunday with Sean Murphy. Should be a fun time, fun conversation with him. But hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy this nice weather while we can, because before you know it, it's going to be snowing. It really is. But I'll catch you guys later. As always, go Pistons. Peace.